that's pretty much the song, Colleen. And just to go over a few things that I had, was working on. Basically, you'll find all your notes, and I hope you can see this. I may have been leaning forward. You may not have been able to see that. I don't know, but we'll go over a little bit of this. And basically, when you're playing in C, and it sounded like that's where you were at, was in C here instead of way up here. When you're playing in C, you got to remember that most of your notes that you need are around, where your hand is here, around the C chord. So if I was playing a C, I have an open G here, and I have a note on the 2nd fret, so I can either directly pick that note or pull it off or hammer on. Okay, so I can do that. I can mess around with that. Another one is where your finger is right here on the 2nd fret, D string, where your middle finger is. And I don't know how advanced you are or anything like that, but pull-offs, hammer-ons and pull-offs are kind of the same, but they're a little different. Basically, a hammer-on is you take and take your finger and just hammer it on a string. And the goal is to try to have the same amount of volume on the hammered on note as you do on the picked note. Okay, and basically all you have to do is, for a test, if you'll take and hold your finger up here and then kind of not pull it, but hold it while you're trying to push the finger onto the fretboard, you have this little snap where your finger comes down. And that's what you want to achieve. Now, pull off is a little different. You have to kind of pick. You don't just lift directly off the string because it kind of kills the note. You want to kind of, as you're lifting, flick the string a little bit. So you're kind of grabbing it and just pulling it down as well as releasing. So it's kind of a pick and flick movement. And all that last little lick was you're straight to the D string, down to the G, down to the B where your fingers are. The other thing is you can strum, and I think you may have been doing this unless I heard a bass in the background, keeping the bass note. And so you can keep the bass going like that, or you can have the now it's good to have it a little bit sounding different each time. You don't want to just, it sounds too bland. You want to have an upstroke every now and then. Or what I like to do, and what I recommend, and I've taught this on a couple of my videos, is basically whenever you hit to that lower bass string, instead of completely strumming it, you want to kind of do an alternate picking thing, and that's going to be a downstroke on that E string where you're fretting here, and then while you're still fretting your C notes here, you're going to go up on the D, down on the G, up on the C, or up on the B string. And you have to remember when you're picking these things, when you come up here on the D string, don't come up too far because you have to come right back down to the G string, and you got this kind of the inside of the string trap happening here. And the way to get around that basically is you just have a very small movement. You can actually sit here and practice this. Because once you hit the G string, now you're outside of the G and outside of the B strings. And that's easier than the inside. You can sit there and practice that. So, but that would sound like this. That's one full cycle. Now that's what I like to do, especially nice medium tempo to slow tempo songs like this song here, Red Clay Halo. The other thing I was messing around with Let's see. Let me just go through a song with it. Every time I switch to G, I usually like right there to do some kind of G lick. Or either pick that or 2 hammer-ons. That's the 2nd fret, A and the D string, and then the G string, and that's all downstrokes if you're hammering on. Or you can go so down up, so hammer on, up on the D, and then pull off with the pick on the D, and the downstroke as well on that G string. Okay, that's a little bit more difficult, but just something to do instead of sitting there on the G, you know. Or you can go, which will lead you to the G7. The G7 is this, and it's also where your pinky is down here on the D string, 3rd fret. But you have to remember when you're playing the bluegrass, and this is a lot of players get stuck in this rut, they'll think they have to hold the whole chord. And they're too afraid to let go of some of the notes of that chord to play, you know, these runs and things like that. You have to get used to playing when you're playing bluegrass. You have to get used to playing and letting some of your fingers get off of the chord note. Remember, you can always come back to it when you need to. So you have to get used to that. In other words, in this sense, this is a full G7, or this is. But if you're going here, when you get to that G, so I'm just going to hit the lower half of the G7. And I don't have to hold the other 2 chords as long as I make sure not to hit that low E string. And so I'm just going to come down and hit maybe the last half of the strings. And so I'm hitting the note on the D string, 3rd fret, that's the 7th. And there's the other 7th right there. You got 2 F notes here. Now another thing, when you're walking down to the G, you can walk down going down to the 2nd fret of the A string. Or what I like doing better on a song like this to make it bluesier sounding is doing the 1st fret. In order to do that, once again, you have to let go of this 1st finger on the C chord. Now, you're letting go of a chord in order to get to another chord, and you kind of have to do that. And you can add the little G run. Okay, so let's go a little bit through that a little more. Also do that, you know, for the G7. Now when we get to the chorus, you can do the same run to get to an F. And usually an easy way to play an F and not kill your fingers is you're going to play the full F. Now I don't know how you play it. Some people play it differently. A lot of people play it with just the bottom 3 fingers. But I usually like to go from a C, put my pinky down, and then put this finger down to the next string. You can bar that, but I prefer not to do it because that gives me a little room to move either of these fingers. If I've got it barred, I can't really do much with it. So just either not play the last string, which won't sound good with a song like this at all, or kind of mute it with these 2 back fingers so that you don't play it. And you won't be able to hear it at all. My eyes are going dry, so I'm having to blink. So when we go to the chorus, a lot of times I like to lead with a melody. And that's all, like I said, the notes that I need are within that chord. They're either notes that I'm fretting or notes I can lift up off of to achieve. And that leads me back to the C. Once again, to hit this high note, I to lift off that F chord. That's B, 3rd fret, and that's usually an upstroke. A lot of bluegrass has to do with alternate picking as well. Now, one thing I like to do is I like to slide to that G, and if I'm from a C here, it's a pretty big slide. You're going to slide to the 5th fret, which is, on my guitar, it's the 2nd dot. So that just leads us to the G when you're going back to the G. Or you could, instead of sliding the whole way, you can go, which gives us that G7. You slide up from there. And usually I would hit this D and the G string to kind of give it that unison sound. And it's okay if you hit that open B string as well, because it's part of the G chord. And that's 2nd fret, up, down, G string. And then this little walk down to the back to the C. Which is basically an open G, 3rd fret D, 2nd fret D, open D, 3rd fret A, which takes you back to the C. Once again, a little C grid. Okay, so the other thing I was going to go over real quick is the solo. You don't have to be really, fancy. A lot of songs like this really sound kind of like that Carter family sound. So for a song like this, a solo that's very minimal is going to sound really good. And basically, all I'm doing is, the key to this is I'm going to take this little shape, and all it is 2 strings, E string, 1st fret, B string, 3rd fret. That's really fun to play. Basically, that gets me back to the C, but I don't have to land on the whole C, because really I'm focusing on the B and E string, so I can take my time and then come back to the 2 notes once I've hit these 2 right here. That gives me time. So I go right here to the high solo, and I try to match the melody. Right here, I'll go to the C, which is part of the C7 note. So my hand is right here, and that note is on the G string, 3rd fret. And that's 3rd, 2nd, open G. You can add your G run, or you can go back to the G7 that we talked about earlier, and go right back to the solo. I like that. You got that open B string leads you to the G sound, and then to the high note, which leads us back. It's a 3rd fret B string, which leads us back to the 1st fret and gives us that final C note. Just to mess around with it. Okay, and now you might be wondering what I'm doing with my hand here. It's kind of like a rhythm thing. Just a little bit strummed, just to keep, instead of I'm kind of strumming just the bottom 2 or 3 strings just to keep a rhythm going. All that is a quick up and down after I hit the main melody. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, Another thing too is you can get trapped in this little section of having to hold those two notes, and it kind of burdens you, hinders you to get to that other note here, that first fret B string. So what I recommend there is you don't have to hit that. You don't have to hold the E string down all the time. You can hit it with an open E. So if you can slide up and then lift off when you get to this note here coming back down. Especially at the end. Now there's a little cool little run I like to do too, and that is it's a quick hammer-on pull-off trill. G string, 2nd fret, middle finger, and then pinky on the D string, 3rd fret, which leads us back to the full C chord on the 2nd fret of the D string. And that's kind of like a part of the F chord. So that's what that leads us back to. So, very simple lesson. You said to keep it simple, and I tried to do exactly what you requested. And so that's the lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully we can do some more of these lessons like this if you are interested. And give me some feedback, email me back, and let me know what you thought about this. And unless you allow me to release this publicly, it is going to be a private link that only you will be able to view. I'll leave it as unlisted, upload it to YouTube, and then send you the link. Okay, there won't be any tabs for this, and there probably won't be any neck diagrams or anything like that, because it's pretty self-explanatory. And the cool thing is with this too is you only have to work within like the first 5 frets. You're not going beyond that. One other thing that you can do before I forget it is this little run right here. You can also do right here, and basically your middle finger, you keep it where it's at, move it up to the 5th fret. It's on the D string, and pair that with the B string of the same fret. Now this is going to be this same way for 3 frets. Okay, so and what I do is I usually use my pick and my middle finger, and I'll, instead of play the whole thing, instead of doing that, I'll just pick those 2 notes. And then just the regular C, because this is what the shape should look like on the last strum there. It doesn't sound as good with that open G in the middle. Okay, so you can take it and either come up here to the, when you're in C, come up here to the 3rd fret, the D string, and slide it up. So it's a pick the note, slide, then pick the other note, and then pick the rest of them together simultaneously. So you can choose which way you want to do that, but that's 2 cool ways to do that. So thanks so much. Leave me some feedback. Let me know what you think, and hopefully I'll get to work together with you again soon. Thanks a lot, Colleen, and I'll see you maybe on the next video. Hope this helped a lot. Thanks. God bless.